Hello, everyone, and welcome to our today's session. My name is Alina. I'm an Education USA advisor, and here we are with another interesting webinar. Thank you so much for joining, and I really hope that the topic that we've shown you we're going to discuss today is going to be very useful because we have invited two wonderful speakers, and I'm sure that if you have participated in our previous webinars, you already know them. But first of all, I would just like to say that Education USA is here to assist you with your application process. And in case if you're applying this fall, I really encourage you to schedule as soon as possible an consultation with our advisors. We will definitely help you to go through this application process and through this difficult and struggling cycle. So if you want to get more guidance from us, please let us know. You can go on our website also and use our email address to schedule a consultation. Okay, so I already said that we have invited two speakers which already have been invited previously. So that's Shawn from St. John's University and Jennifer from Rice. So I will just give them the floor to introduce themselves, and I will just add the presentation on the screen so we can just go on with it meanwhile. Thank you so much, Shawn and Jennifer. I really appreciate you joining us once more, and I'm really excited to see what are the tips, what are some new, let's say, tips that can be discussed regarding the test optional policy.
Thank you, Alina. My name is Shawn Slon. I'm an admission counselor and recruitment manager at St. John's University based in New York City. And I'm going to start it off today, but we're also joined by a colleague from Rice University who will finish off the presentation. So I'm going to talk to you today about St. John's University, just very briefly to explain, who we are as an institution, where we are, what programs we are best in, and why certain students should consider us. But then I'll really focus in on the application process and specifically our test optional policy in terms of submitting or not submitting an SAT or an ACT exam. As Alina said, the application process is confusing or complicated, and we're here to help you with it. So, don't hesitate to reach out to your admission counselor when you have questions. Some materials in the application are mandatory, some are optional. It can be different at each university. So we understand it's confusing, and we don't mind you reaching out to us to ask these questions. So you're seeing slides you saw a slide, the last slide was the New York City subway map. So yes, thanks for going back, you didn't have to. St. John's is based in New York City. And if you go to the next slide, that is an overhead shot of our beautiful over 100-acre campus in New York City. This is a residential part of New York City, and students really get the best of both worlds in terms of big urban city and that large American-style college campus. You could go on to the next slide. In terms of majors, we're a medium to large size university with over 100 different undergraduate majors to choose from and over 65 graduate programs. They're divided into these 6 schools and colleges listed on the right. We are specialize in the first one, pharmacy and health sciences, and I mean nursing, biomedical sciences, pharmacy, and a few other programs related to health sciences. And then if you skip down a little bit, our Peter J. Tobin College of Business with some very high-ranked, excellent business programs, and being based in New York City really, really helps with business job placement and internships. Our School of Law is also very highly ranked and fantastic, and we have a College of Liberal Arts and Sciences that makes up our core curriculum. And is really the foundation of St. John's University. So lots of really interesting programs, too many to talk about. Today is just a quick introduction. We really want to focus on the application process, specifically test optional status. So let's go on to the next slide. Okay, our application, first of all, in terms of deadline, we offer what's called rolling admission, which means we don't really have deadlines. I'm talking about our undergraduate application. So for students applying to our undergraduate programs, we do offer rolling admission with the exception of our pharmacy program and our biooptometry program. Those do have deadlines listed on this slide. We offer early action. The early action deadline, which means to submit your application early, is by December 1st, typically of your final year of high school. So while you're completing that final year, early action gets your application to the top of the pile. You get a response sooner. It shows real interest in the university, and we prioritize those applications a little bit. You get a notification of your decision a bit sooner. But again, really, students can apply anytime. Now, we require all students to submit their high school transcripts. We do need 4 years of transcripts, even if your senior high school in your country is, say, 3 years. In that case, we would need the last year of your junior high or middle school transcript the year before high school as well. And then the reason we're all here today, what tests do we need? Now, St. John's University is fully test optional, which means we do not require SAT or ACT. For international students, this means that we still require an English language proficiency exam. And at St. John's University, if you do submit SAT or ACT, we'll consider that your English language exam. So we just need any one of these exams listed here for all international applicants, with the exception of international students coming from English-speaking countries or international students who have completed all 4 years of high school leading to high school graduation at a fully English instruction high school. Submitting SAT at St. John's will never hurt your application. This is different at every institution. If you submit an SAT score that we would consider too low, we will ignore it and ask you for an English exam. This, again, I've heard different things from different admission counselors where submitting a lower SAT could hurt your application. So you want to be careful to do a bit of research on the institution you're applying for. A general rule of thumb is that this is from my research and from speaking with other admission counselors, you can research the average SAT scores of an applicant to a university. And if you're within the 50% range, about higher than their middle range average score, then you can confidently submit your SAT score. But again, at St. John's, if you've taken the SAT, I highly encourage you to submit it. It cannot hurt. I also want to make it very clear that not submitting an SAT will also never hurt your application. So let's move to the next slide. I'd like to explain this all in more detail. Let's start with the scholarships, because as an applicant at St. John's University, your application will automatically be considered for this merit-based scholarship that's highlighted in yellow at the bottom of the screen. If you're admitted to St. John's University as an international student, you will receive a merit-based scholarship. Every single international student for the last at least 5 years has received at least $15,000 in merit-based scholarship and up to $36,000. The majority receive at least $25,000 or $30,000. This scholarship is determined either based on your high school GPA, grade point average from high school, or your SAT score, whichever one qualifies the student for a higher scholarship. So this is one way submitting an SAT can help with your scholarship offer at St. John's University. If your GPA is high enough to be admissible to the university, but not high enough on our scale to consider you for our highest scholarships, then we can look at your SAT for the scholarship amount. I hope I've made this clear. In other words, either one, whichever is higher on our scales, will determine your scholarship amount. Let's move on to the next slide. So just to review and be very clear, Our test optional policy at St. John's University, the SAT and ACT is not required. Not submitting it will not hurt the application. Like I was just explaining, the highest merit-based scholarship can still be available without SAT or ACT, but that SAT or ACT can also be used to calculate the scholarship if the GPA is not very high. So I hope this is clear. And again, as an international student, if you are not submitting SAT and you're not coming from an English-speaking country or an English language school, then we will need an English language proficiency test. So let's move on to the next slide. So the English language proficiency exams that we accept are the TOEFL, IELTS, Duolingo English exam, the Pearson's PTE exam, and the Cambridge English exam. Again, I think I've said most of this, but I'll just go through it again real quick. This is not required if you submit the SAT or ACT, because we'll use the ACT, SAT, whichever one you submit, as your proof of English. Not every university will do that, but some will. Yeah, and then just the things I've mentioned, not required if you come from an English-speaking country, not required if all 4 years have been English language instruction, or if you've completed high school in the United States. And then finally, we do not require any exam, SAT or English language proficiency, if the student would like to be considered for conditional admission. And conditional admission means admission to one of our bachelor's programs with the condition that you have to complete our English language program before you start your degree granting program. So if you go to the next slide, I've got a nice breakdown of our 3 different admission pathways. So we've got conditional admission, which is on top. Before you start reading the text, let me try to explain. So St. John's conditional admission is what I was just mentioning. This means you are not submitting any English test, or if you did submit English tests, your scores are too low. If you get admitted to a program with full conditional admission, it means you cannot start the program right away. You attend our English Language Institute first, and upon successful completion, then you start the degree program. If you jump to the bottom, skip the middle section for a moment, we have direct admission. Direct admission is what it sounds like. A student has everything they need to be admitted to St. John's University, including the English language proficiency scores on those exams. There's also a middle of the road sort of admission policy, which we refer to as our elite admission. This is for students who just barely do not make our English language cutoffs. And for students in this category, we do allow them to start both at the same time. You'll be starting your degree program right away, like you would with direct admission, but you'll have to attend the English Language Institute on the side in the beginning just to complete some English as a second language courses. Okay, so those are the 3 different pathways. And I believe that's my last slide for today. Let's just go on to the next slide. You can scan this QR code. We'll share the presentation and it'll be posted later as well. So you can scan that to get on our email list and learn more about St. John's. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I will then just give the floor to Jennifer, but meanwhile, just reminding our student once more that it's going to be helpful if you can just submit your questions here in the chat, and we can also answer them. We have some questions that the students addressed in advance, but if there are some of you who have questions on their mind about test optional policy, please don't forget to submit them. Okay, Jennifer, then I will give you the floor so you can also introduce yourself and go on with your presentation.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Can you all hear me? coming
Yes.
through? Perfect. Okay, I'm Jennifer Hunter. I am Assistant Dean in the Office of Graduate and Postdoctoral Studies at Rice University. So what I'll be talking on today is mainly graduate admissions here at Rice. Of course, if you have questions about undergraduate admissions, you're welcome to reach out to me, and I'm happy to connect you with folks that can answer your specific questions. And I wanted to talk a little bit about Rice in general, and kind of, who we are. So we're a small private research institution here in Houston, Texas. I'm very excited to share with you all of the information that I can about Rice University, our graduate student life, our graduate programs, the admissions requirements for Rice University, as well as the testing policies that we have for all of our graduate admissions and graduate programs. And we can go to the next slide. So just to start off a little bit about Rice University, I do want to mention that we're really focused on research. We are a top tier R1 research institution, and we're really nationally recognized in the United States for breakthrough research across every discipline, not just a few flagship departments or programs, but every discipline really invests fully in the research enterprise here at Rice. We have exceptional resources for graduate students. We have plenty of financial support for each student, and that really translates to lab infrastructure and research support for your thesis building that you're going to be doing. And third, I wanted to mention that I mentioned our school is a pretty small school. We have about 8,000 students, about 4,000 graduate students, and about 4,000 undergraduates. So we're pretty evenly split. And we try intentionally to have these intimate cohorts, both for our master's and our PhD programs. We really want to make sure that you get to know the people that are teaching you, that are leading you in your research, that are leading you in the classroom, but also that you get to know your cohort very well. Rice is a place where graduate education is not competitive. That is not what we're about. And we really want to make sure that all of our students feel this community that we have here, and that also that they know that they're going to be supported all the way through their degree from the first day they get here, which for all of our graduate students was yesterday. We had our graduate orientation for our incoming cohort yesterday, to the very last day of your tenure here at Rice University, whether that's in a master's program or a visiting program or your PhD or other. All right. And then the last thing I wanted to mention on this slide is really we're generally a global collaboration hub. So Rice is a very diverse institution with lots of people from all over the world. And we try and collaborate intentionally globally with people that we work well with, we do great research with. Houston is also a very diverse city, a very global city. And so you will find that when you come to Houston as well. Okay, now we can go to the next slide. So I do want to start off because we're talking here about our testing requirements. I do want to talk about language proficiency requirements. And so for Rice University, if you're an international student and your citizenship, your primary citizenship is outside the United States, or you, if you've, this is something that we will need you to have some sort of language test. At Rice University in the graduate world, you can choose between 3 tests. We will take the TOEFL IBT, we will take the IELTS academic, or the Duolingo English test. The TOEFL IBT, there's 2 kind of sets of numbers we're looking at now. So if you've taken the TOEFL recently before they changed to the new band, we're looking for a 90 or a 4.5. The IELTS, we're looking for a 7, and Duolingo, we're looking for a 115. If you have instruction in your bachelor's degree or your master's degree, and that instruction was in English, you may be qualified for a waiver for this testing policy. You really need to check with your department to make sure that they understand what you're asking and put that request in. But that typically should be waived for you if you can prove instruction in English for one of those degrees. If you don't have that instruction in English, we really would want you to choose one of 3 of these tests. And that's totally up to you. We do not prefer one test over the other. We're just looking for these minimum scores just to make sure that we can process your visa and get you here to Rice. Let's see here. And our ETS code is 6609, in case you're wondering. And I'll put some links in the last slide so that you can copy and go to these different websites that we have for our proficiency requirements and make sure that you have all the information you need to start your application strongly. All right, next slide, please. So for the GRE or GMAT or other tests, what is actually required? So Rice University does not require the GRE for graduate programs. We don't have any official policy on GRE testing. all of our departments on the graduate level are able to make that distinction for themselves. And so you will see some different language, not just at Rice University, but any institution with graduate programs. You may see this language that is required, strongly recommended, or recommended but not required. So what does that actually mean? Because that can be really confusing language. If it's recommended but not required, do I really need to have the GRE? And I would say that for most programs, if they're saying that the GRE is waived, that likely means that they will not look at it to be holistic in their admissions processes to make sure that they're fair across the board. If you submit GRE scores, it's possible they would look at them, but if it says waived, they're probably not going to. If it's required, yes, please do submit your scores. When we get down to the strongly recommended or recommended, to me, that's the most confusing piece. Should I do this or should I not do this? If you have scores that you are proud of and they are saying one of those categories, recommended or strongly recommended, I would encourage you to go ahead and submit those scores if you have scores you are proud of. That is the best answer that I can give you, because I feel that, for a lot of programs, they really want to have this sort of requirement for a GRE, but they don't want to say that for whatever reason. And so, if they're saying recommended or strongly recommended, probably go ahead and take the test, see how you do, and then go ahead and submit those scores if you have scores that you're proud of. At Rice, for the business school, I do know that is one program that we require GRE or GMAT for, and you can choose which test you want to take. So if you've already taken one of those tests in the past couple of years, you can go ahead and submit that as part of your application package. And let's go ahead to the next slide. I wanted to talk a little bit about PhD funding, because I feel that this is a really confusing topic as well. And so when you're trying to think about graduate programs and where you want to study, it's really important to think about how well you're going to be supported while you're there. And for a lot of folks, top of mind is financial support. Can you survive comfortably in the city that you've chosen with whatever funds that you're using to get through graduate school? For PhD admission in particular, it's really important to note that for most programs in the United States, you will be fully financially supported. So for our PhD programs at Rice, our doctoral programs, you will receive 100% tuition waiver. You will receive a stipend that supports your cost of living. And that's really important to know that you're going to be doing research work for the university. A PhD is a research degree, and you'll be doing research not just for your own thesis, but for the work that your advisor does, the work that he does or she does in their lab. And so you're going to be supported by this paycheck that will get you support for your cost of living expenses while you're studying in the university. Most PhD programs will support you for about 5 years of funding, and a PhD degree can take 4 to 6 years to complete. So it's important to note that as well. At Rice, health insurance is also 100% subsidized. Health insurance in the United States can be expensive and can be complicated. So this is another benefit that we are proud to offer all of our PhD students here at Rice University. All right. I do want to mention a little bit more about Houston's cost of living as well. We are a really wonderful city. I have been here since 2013. There's so much to do here and so many great options. My favorite hobby is dining. I love to eat out in Houston because we have so many different restaurants, but it's also much more affordable than the average city in the US might be. We run about 7% lower than the average cost of living in the United States, lower than any US major metro. And we are the 4th largest city in the US. And so I want to point that out, is don't overlook Houston, don't overlook Texas, especially, as a great place for your graduate study. All right, next slide, please. A little bit more about Rice University before we go on to our Q&A. I did want to talk about that supportive, collaborative culture a little bit more. At many universities, you might have to compete for a research assistantship or a teaching assistantship. At Rice, we do not have that sort of competitive nature. We require all of our graduate students to be paid, and that is the requirement for all of our departments. So we take out that competitive aspect of things so that everyone can focus on their research or what it is that they need to complete their PhD successfully. I also want to point out that wherever you go to graduate school, please get involved. We really love to see students who make the effort to get out of the lab, get out of the classroom, get out of the library, and go and meet other students. I think that's so important, especially when we talk about international education and going somewhere new to study. I think it's really wonderful when students can come together to make a difference on their campus and give back. And a graduate student association is a great way to do that. So most universities will have some sort of graduate student association. I encourage you to research that and get involved early so that you can have a great foundation and community support while you complete your degree. All right, next slide, please. I mentioned this a little bit, so I won't go too far into Houston, but I did want to say we are the 4th largest, one of the most diverse cities in the United States. Very friendly feel. Texas's state motto is friendship, and I know that you will feel that once you come to Texas and experience Rice and experience Houston. We have great industry in Texas as well. We are sitting on the innovation corridor, so a lot of the startup innovation district is right near Rice University. The Texas Medical Center is also right across the street from Rice University. It's the largest medical center in the world and just a fantastic place to do research and to do work with our colleagues there. It's also a great place to get sick. You know, we never want that to happen to us. We of course would never want that to happen to you either. But if that happens while you're here in Houston, please know that you will be well cared for. And this is a place that does care about the people in its city. Next slide, please. I don't know if this video is going to play, but this is a very brief tour of our university so you can see what it looks like. I'm not sure if we're able to play this, but maybe let's try it.
I don't think actually that will be able to.
Okay.
Yeah, to make
it's
your
a
work.
YouTube within a YouTube. It's a little meta. Yeah, I'll share a link.
In the chat. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Alina. All right, let's go to the next slide. Okay, a couple other things I wanted to mention are resources related to Rice University. So of course, academics are so important. If you're going for a research degree, that is really important as well. But you need to invest in yourself beyond those two things. You're already going to be doing so much hard work on either of those avenues. Look for the other ways that you want to develop as a person, as a colleague. And there are many resources at Rice University that will help you do that. One is the DOOR Institute, which is personalized one-on-one leadership coaching. This is executive level coaching that's offered to all Rice students, and it's free of cost. And I would encourage anyone who comes to Rice to get involved early and get those skill sets that we really need to lead in our chosen fields. If you're interested in teaching, which many of us are, the Center for Teaching Excellence will help you prepare for a career in teaching. They offer a certificate program. They are up to date on all the latest pedagogy, and they give a certificate for graduate students who go through all of their courses that you can take with you. And that's a really wonderful thing to have and really great training to have as well. The Lilly Institute is for all students who have a business idea that they would like to get off the ground. This will help you get that business idea out into the world, connect you with venture capitalists, connect you with funders, and help you launch that idea. So really, if you're interested in entrepreneurial things, make sure that you find these resources on the campus that you're interested in, and do go and check those things out. And then finally, the CAPC is our Center for Academic and Professional Communication. A lot of international students do ask me about this resource here on the Rice campus. It's for all students, regardless of where you are from, and it's going to help you communicate your ideas for academics, for your coursework, for the research that you're doing. They help with fellowship applications, dissertations, any conference presentations that you might have. So anything related to academic communication, they are the office for you. So this is a wonderful, wonderful resource. And I hope that a lot of campuses will have something similar. And I hope that you would check those out when you get to the institution that you're interested in. All right, this might be my last slide coming up. I might have two more. Oh, I'm going to speed through these pretty quickly, but wherever you go to grad school, wherever you go to school in general, please look for resources for people that will help you. At Rice, we have a recreation center. That's a wonderful place to be healthy physically. We also want you to be healthy in other ways as well. And so we do have student health and counseling services, and we want you to get outside. Houston is a great place year-round to be outside. Of course, in August, it's a little hot right now, but we always love being able to be outside year-round without concern for the weather. Next slide, please. One other thing I'll mention really briefly is the dining. Of course, in Houston, I have already mentioned that's my favorite hobby, but dining at Rice is also a fantastic experience as well. All of our grad students have the options to purchase meal plans, and so that's a really great way to make sure that you can focus on your studies while being fed, and somebody else will do the cooking. So wonderful place to eat out as well. Next slide, please. Okay, I did want to mention this. For our PhD programs, we do have annual fee waiver weeks. You can apply to get this fee waiver starting October 14th. It will run through November 1st. All that you need to do is adhere to our basic admissions requirements, which is a 3.0 GPA generally. We want you to submit your application early. So by November 27th, we want to have your application, and then that waiver will be applied automatically to your account. So please do scan this QR code that you see on your screen and sign up for information about this Fee Waiver Weeks program, because we really do want you to take advantage of this. Not just at Rice, but at any institution you apply to, you should ask for fee waivers. It cannot hurt. It doesn't count against you in any way. And the worst that they can say is no. So please do ask for those things. Next slide, please. If you've already done research and would like to visit Rice University, even virtually, we have the Gulf Coast Undergraduate Research Symposium coming up in a month and a half. And anyone who is interested in STEM disciplines or economics is able to apply. You can submit your original research. You can submit a course project. This is an oral presentation that is 10 to 12 minutes long. We would love to have you be part of it. Next slide, please. Okay, my big list of things for you to pay attention to. So please do screenshot this list. This is information that will help you figure out what you need to do to apply to Rice University for graduate study. You can find all of our graduate programs through here. You can find our complete guide to admissions, top to bottom, for international students. And so it walks you through everything that you need to know. You'll learn more about our housing, and of course, you'll learn more about GCURS. If you're thinking about funding for graduate school, I think Fulbright at Rice is a really great option as well. So look into our benefits that we offer Fulbrighters, and I encourage you to apply for that fellowship if it's available in your country to get funding for graduate study. That's a really prestigious fellowship that will help you in your application as well. And then finally, my last shameless plug is we do have a podcast. So if you're interested in taking a deep dive into all of the application materials, what it is to apply to grad school, the differences between degree programs, I invite you to scan that QR code there and learn more about us. And I think that might be my last slide.
Yes.
Yay. Okay.
Thank you so much. That was super informative. I really hope that the students had the possibility to screen all that. Otherwise, we can also put them in the chat. And I think that code for the GRE would be super helpful, specifically for those who are, was that ETS? Sorry, not GRE. It was ETS. So if you can share that once more. Great. So we have several questions which have been addressed in advance, which I would definitely love to give them to you and start answering. So one of the first question is the following here. What do you think about SAT inflation? That's a provocative one, I would say, because nowadays a lot of people buy leaks and get scores like 1550 and get higher. Should I retake my SAT if I have 1,500? Because now a lot of people have it. I think that's the part where Shawn can answer. That's a question for you, maybe.
Yeah, I'll talk about SAT since I work on the undergraduate side of things and Jennifer is more on the graduate side. So no, I mean, my first answer is just no, period. A score of over 1,500 is generally considered elite level and would never need a retake, in my opinion. Now, there might be one or couple exceptions if you're applying for the very top universities. Again, what I would say to this is do research on the universities you're applying for. Look at their 50% range. What's it referred to as? It's referred to as the middle 50% range. And if your score is somewhere in that middle 50% range, it's probably worth going ahead and submitting. If you want to be really competitive, which it sounds like the student in this question does want to be, you might want to be above the 75th percentile, which you can also very easily look up specific to each institution.
Yeah, I haven't heard about buying leaks, but apparently that's a thing, I guess, where I don't know.
I'm going to be looking that up right away after this.
But that's a good question, by the way, to be addressed to College Board. We'll have a session with them next week. So for all those interested about SAT specifically, I think you can also ask them at that webinar. Then the next question here, do I have to submit the proficiency test if I already have one when applying for Flex program? I think that's an interesting question. So that's about undergraduate degree. I don't know if you know what is Flex program, but that's a leadership program specifically for international students. It gives them the opportunity to do an exchange year in the States in a high school.
I mean, I think the simple answer is that if the exam that you took for the Flex program is one of the exams that the university accepts, then it'll be acceptable. Generally, English proficiency exams are only valid for 2 years. Yeah. So it has to be taken within the last 2 years of the start date of when you're of the semester you're applying for. And yeah, I don't know what English test the Flex program makes you do.
Great. That's that the person needs basically to check it if that is same with what the university he intends to apply for coincides.
I would also add to that. So sometimes we get a similar question for Fulbright applicants for our university, which it's a similar program. And our answer to that is always, well, if you're doing the English proficiency for Fulbright and they're working with you to get your visa, then we will waive the English proficiency on our side because we're not the ones that are working on the visa piece. So if that's helpful to anyone else out there, I wanted to point that out.
Thank you. Okay, the next question, when your university is test optional, how do you decide whether a student's SAT or ACT score adds value to their application? Are there situations where you would recommend submitting a score?
I mean, I think I pretty much covered this during the presentation. This might have been a question from before we presented.
Yes.
It's hard to say. I do think it's different at every institution. And I think the general rule of thumb, again, is to just do some research on the institution you're applying to and see what their average SAT score ranges are, and then make a decision based on that as to whether or not you should submit it when it's test optional.
Great. Thank you so much.
I mean, and then, yes, some specific situations when I would recommend submitting a score is like if you're applying to a business program or computer science program or any program that's very math heavy and you've got a great math SAT score or even a better than average math SAT score, then yes, you absolutely want to be submitting that SAT. That's just one example of when it could very much help an application.
Yeah, and in your case, I think you already listed that in case if your GPA is not strong enough, you can still take SAT, so that maybe you will be reviewed for any scholarship chances, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, absolutely. Going back to that, we at St. John's and I think many institutions can use your SAT score to evaluate the scholarship offer that we're going to give you, so it can be beneficial. Then just really quickly going back to the last question, because I just looked it up and it looks like the Flex program does their own English proficiency evaluations, and if that is the case, we at St. John's would not accept that. We would need to see one of the exams that we accept or one of the other situations like your high school is all in English.
That's good to know. Thank you. Thank you so much. Then one more question here. For international students, are there any differences in how you evaluate test scores compared with US applicants? And what advice would you give international students who are unsure whether to submit their score or not? I think that's valid for both of you. Mm-hmm. So maybe Shawn can answer first and then Jennifer.
Well, I gotta say that I'm particularly more impressed with international students who score very highly on the SAT and these standardized exams, especially on the English or verbal sections where this is an exam in a second language. So I think the easiest way to put this would be subconsciously I give the student a bit more credit, but technically I'm not, there's no, I'm not actually changing the scores or anything like that. But it is quite impressive when international students do well on these standardized exams.
I would echo what Shawn said. And I think a lot of admissions committees know, as Americans, since I was in kindergarten, there have been standardized tests that I need to take every year. Americans are very well versed in how to take a standardized test. The emphasis, especially in high school, on scoring well on these tests and the preparation is next level for a lot of Americans. And so I think a lot of admissions committees, especially on the graduate level, they know that for an international student, it might be a very, very different experience. And so while we might not outwardly state, how we're going to evaluate this sort of thing, we do try and keep that in mind. And I think, as Shawn said, we're just really, really impressed with international students, especially who come in without this sort of test prep and are able to do so well. So kudos to all of you who are taking on this test prep and going into this stage of the application.
I would love to just say one more thing, because the last question was, or a couple questions ago, was about a very high SAT score, and they were asking about possibly retaking with a 1500, which is a reasonable question. But I want everybody who's following to understand that that is way above the national average, even when you're looking at, American test takers, right? An average range for the SAT is approximately 1,000 to about 1,100, 1,140. Anybody scoring over 1,200, over 1,150 is above average. You're already above 50%. Above 1,250, you're quickly already almost in the top 10% of test takers. So yes, you hear about all these top elite schools needing to see a 1,400, a 1,450, maybe a 1,500. That's very rare. At the vast majority of institutions, a score of over 1,250 is considered very good. So I hope that's clear.
Definitely. Thank you so much. Yes, I mean, I think it's also because the students try to be super competitive, because mostly all of them, they would want to apply for schools which are usually need blind or need aware. So they are very conscious that they should be very competitive. They need to have a very good application package. And that's why they try to increase their chances with everything possible, including SAT. That's why they are going through a preparation phase, which is taking a long time. That's why we are doing all this SAT boot camps, which are helping the students with going through every section. So I really understand that question from the student. Thank you so much for answering, by the way. There is a mention here in the comments from Nicolene about Flex program. By the way, English proficiency tests were not required while applying for the scholarship for Flex. And usually shows their proficiency through the essays in round 1 and English tests in round 2. Okay, great. Thank you so much for clarifying that. That's helpful. Okay, so I think we've covered all of the questions that we've had in advance. Maybe a question from me as an Education USA advisor. So I think that might be valid for both for graduates and undergraduates. So we have a lot of situations when the students, for instance, take the standardized test in August or September. They didn't get a very good score and they are confused about they want to retake it, right? So maybe that the test is not going to be available like in the following period because they need some more preparation, right? So what usually you recommend those students to do? Should they submit that later? Because usually for undergraduate students, they can submit that a bit later. Or should they submit the score that they have currently and then just give you information about the other score that they've had? Maybe that's even a smaller one, or maybe it's a bigger one in a good situation. How the students should proceed in these situations, because that happens often.
I would say on the grad side, it depends on how late it is, right? So if you have a score already and you're going to have to wait 2 months to take the next test, you might want to submit the score that you have, because you don't want an admissions committee to review without that score if it's suggested, strongly suggested, or required. And then, ultimately decide, well, we don't have this piece that we need to view for this student. So it really just depends on how late it is. You can submit scores after the fact, after you submit your application, but I would just be very mindful of, if the deadline is December 1st and you're not sure if the admissions committee is going to review December 2nd or after the winter break, you might just want to go ahead and submit. And then you can reach out to the department to say, hey, I have an updated score once that comes in, and here it is. And or if you're submitting it through the official channels, I've sent this and please let me know if you've received it. I think that's totally fine.
Good to know. Shawn,
Yeah,
you want to...
I would pretty much echo that. I would say, the main difference is just that we, at least for the undergraduate programs at St. John's, we do offer rolling admission, so there's really no hard deadlines. A general rule of thumb could be, go ahead and submit whatever you have. You can always update us with another score later. We're always willing to reevaluate an application with a new score.
Yep.
Thank you. That's a very great message to all the students who are struggling, because we have a lot of international students who mainly take the test. They are not happy about the result. They are sure that they can score better, and they are confused. Should they submit the one they have now, or should they still wait for the new one? So that's a great advice. Thank you so much. Okay, so we are done with all the questions. Thank you so much, both of you, for sharing this wonderful presentation and for giving us so many details on the approach that every one of your institution has towards the test optional policy. We really appreciate that, and I really hope that all the students who are growing now through the preparation process, because we have many of those students who've prepared for SAT in our SAT bootcamp, and they are now in the preparation process to take SAT. So good luck to you. Also, good luck to those who are taking either GRE, GMAT. And yes, I hope that this presentation was useful and you will use all the tips that our speakers have shared with you. Thanks once more, Shawn and Jennifer, and thank you everyone that have watched us today.
Alina, I want to thank you also, and all of Education USA. The work that you do is so important, and I hope that you know how appreciated you are, each of you. And so thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm very happy you said that. We could not do what we do without Education USA. So thank you again. Thank you
so much. Thank you so much. Everyone have a great evening. And yes, and Jennifer and Shawn, yes, you too. A great continuation of your day, and to many more successful students.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you.